What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today I am going to show you the easiest way to learn music in all 12 keys. One of my longtime subscribers, Robert Norris, asked me how I learn songs in all 12 keys. He specifically asked me how I did it when I was younger, but the way I do it now is the exact same way that I did it when I was younger. So I have shown you licks before, and I've talked about how to do it in other keys, but I've never done something just super specific on how to learn music in several keys. So today, we're going to dive into that subject. So the first thing I want you to realize is the number of keys that you learn music in, whether it's a lick or a song, should be dependent on your level of playing. If you're like a solid intermediate player, you should maybe be learning songs in 7 or 8 keys, like maybe C through E on the sharp side and maybe into B flat or E flat on the flat side. If you're early intermediate, maybe only learn songs or licks in 4 or 5 keys or 6 keys. It should all be dependent on what your level of playing is. If you're an early intermediate player, trying to learn something in B and F sharp and C sharp is not going to be as beneficial to you for the amount of time that it's going to take you. Get your first several keys down and then work out from there. So if you are early intermediate, just plan on doing it through A and maybe through B flat on the flat side. So that'd be C, G, D, A, F, and B flat. And the more advanced you get, the more keys that you should learn things in. So I'm going to show you the exact way that I learn things in all 12 keys. And I've mentioned it in the lick videos before when I tell you how to do it in other keys. But today I'm just going to be super specific. To demonstrate learning these licks in a bunch of different keys, I'm going to pick something that's fairly easy. And what I'm going to choose is the ending that you hear on a lot of jazz songs. And this will actually be very beneficial because this is a lick that you need to know in several keys. You hear that at the end of a whole bunch of songs. You hear that ending on a lot of jazz standards. So I call that lick the cheese ending, just meaning it's a little cheesy because you play it on the end of a lot of jazz standards. There might be another name for it, but that's what I've always called it. And I'm going to use this lick because it's a pretty easy lick to demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to learning things in several keys. So step 1 is learn the lick by memory in the original key. So no writing it out, don't write out the lick, learn it by memory. So once you've learned it by memory, I'm going to do it in the key of G. And I can play it pretty effortlessly in that key without much thought. Then I am going to write out the scale degrees that are in the lick. Write out the scale degrees that are in the lick. Don't write out the music for it because music gives you value. In other words, it's telling you to play this specific note at this time. I want you to write out the scale degrees so that it can be transferred from key to key very easily. So this lick starts on the 1, and then it goes down to the 3. So I'd write 1, 3, and then from the 3, it goes chromatic from the 3 to the 5. So it goes 3, 4, sharp 4, 5. 3, 4, sharp 4, 5. And then from there, it just goes up the scale. So the scale degrees are 1, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So the lick is actually very easy if you look at it in scale degrees. It is, you start on the 1, you go to the 3, and you go up the major scale except you add the sharp 4. And that gives you the chromatic movement in there. So when you start thinking about it like that, 1, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, it becomes way easier to put in another key. So I just did it in the key of G. Now we're going to do it in the key of C. So what is your 1 in the key of C? That would obviously be C. Then your 3 would be E. Your 4 would be F. Your sharp 4 would be F sharp. And then it just keeps going up the scale. So you're going 1, 3, 4, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. It's really easy. And you start plugging it in that way, you start to learn your scales really, really well too, because you have to think about your scales in scale degree numbers as opposed to, for example, your D scale is from D to D with an F sharp and a C sharp. You have to know that your D scale, the 3rd degree is an F sharp, and the 6th degree is a B, and the 5th degree is an A. And obviously, the more that you do this kind of work, the more effortless that process becomes, and it becomes really easy to figure out things in different keys. So right now, we are just talking about a lick, but it works the exact same way for a melody. For anything you want to learn in multiple keys, figure out the scale degrees. Now, if you're doing a melody, obviously you don't want to try to learn the whole melody at one time. If you do that, it's just going to take you forever because it's too much to remember and too much to figure out. So do it a section at a time. If you're doing a jazz song, those are usually 8-bar A sections. So work on the first 8 bars. If the first 8 bars are too much, work on the first 4 bars. If the first 4 bars are too much, work on the first 2 bars. Break it down into digestible sections. You're going to be way better off doing a couple bars as opposed to the whole song or the whole 8 bars all at once. And that's it. There's no real big secret to it. It's figuring it out by scale degree. Don't write it out note by note. That is going to help you learn it and remember it and know it in all 12 keys. And by doing it by scale degree, it's going to help your ears a lot because you're going to start to recognize thirds and fifths and fourths and all this kind of stuff. It's just very, very beneficial. Now, if you are trying to learn something for like a technique practice, it is totally okay to write that out in all 12 keys. If you're doing it for technique, in other words, the ability to move your fingers really fast, if you're reading the music, you're going to think less about what notes you have to play because you're going to be able to read them, and it's all going to be about technique and ability to play. So don't feel like you have to learn every single thing in all 12 keys or however many keys you want to learn it in by memory. It's okay if you write out a lick or a technique thing in multiple keys that you're just trying to work on technique meaning the ability to move your fingers and play fast. But if you want to learn licks and phrases and songs in all 12 keys, thinking about degree number is the way to do it. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. I really appreciate it. If you now understand how to figure out a lick or a song or any type of music in multiple keys, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it below. I read all of my comments and reply to most of them. And obviously, if you ask me a question that I think will make a good video, like today, I'll do a video on it. Thanks a lot.